Welcome to Cupid's Corner, where love stories come alive. Sit back, relax, and let the tales of romance sweep you off your feet.
Whispers in the canyon. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm amber glow over the rugged canyonlands of the southwest. Ayana moved silently through the dry brush, her keen eyes scanning the terrain. The air was thick with the scent of sage, and the distant call of a hawk echoed against the rock walls. She was on the lookout for game, but something else tugged at her instincts, a feeling that something was amiss. As she rounded a bend in the trail, her heart skipped a beat. There, sprawled against a jagged rock, was a man. His clothes were torn and dusty, his face smeared with blood. Ayana's pulse quickened, and she instinctively reached for the knife strapped to her thigh, a reflex honed from years of survival. "Stay back," she called, her voice steady but laced with caution. The man stirred, groaning softly. "Please. I need help," he murmured, his voice hoarse and wavering. "You are a white man," she replied, her tone sharp. "Why should I help you?" He lifted his head slightly, revealing blue eyes that were clouded with pain and vulnerability. "I'm not here to harm you. I'm just passing through." He winced as he attempted to sit up, his hand pressing against a bloodied wound on his side. Ayana hesitated, caught between distrust and compassion. She had heard tales of how her people had suffered at the hands of settlers and soldiers. Yet, as she studied him, she saw not a warrior, but a man lost in a world that had turned against him. "Fine," she said finally, lowering her knife. "I will help you, but you must not try anything foolish." "Thank you," he breathed, relief washing over his features. "I'm Samuel." "Ayana," she replied curtly, moving closer. She examined the wound with a practiced eye, noting the deep gash and the surrounding bruising. "You need to rest." As she worked to clean and bandage his injury, an uneasy silence enveloped them. Ayana's hands were steady, but her mind raced with questions. Why had he left his kind for this desolate land? "What were you doing out here?" she asked, not looking up from her task. "Seeking redemption," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was a cavalry scout. I've seen the destruction we've wrought upon your people." Ayana paused, meeting his gaze. "And you think helping one person will erase your guilt?" "It's a start," he said simply, an honesty in his eyes that disarmed her. "I want to understand, to make amends." She finished tying the bandage and stepped back, her heart still racing. "You may find it harder than you think. My people remember." "I know," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "But I can't run away from my past anymore. I need to face it, even if it means confronting the pain I've caused." Ayana studied him for a moment longer, then turned away, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. "Rest. I will gather supplies." As she moved through the canyon, gathering herbs and water, she felt a strange pull towards Samuel, an unfamiliar warmth that she tried to shake off. Days passed, and Samuel's strength gradually returned. With each shared meal and conversation, their walls began to crumble. "Tell me about your people," he urged one evening as they sat by the fire, the stars shimmering above like scattered diamonds. Ayana hesitated, staring into the flames. "We are the Apache. We live with the land, respect it. But the settlers, they take. They do not understand." Samuel nodded, his expression somber. "I've seen it. I've seen families torn apart. It haunts me." "Good," Ayana said sharply, her eyes narrowing. "You should feel haunted." "I do," he replied quietly, his gaze unwavering. "But I also want to help. To learn from you." Their conversations grew deeper, weaving tales of loss and survival, dreams of the future, and the echoes of their pasts. Ayana found herself laughing at his stories of clumsy encounters with wildlife, and Samuel delighted in the way her dark eyes sparkled when she spoke of her childhood. One night, the air was thick with unspoken tension. Ayana looked at Samuel, the firelight dancing between them. "You should leave," she said suddenly, the words feeling heavy on her tongue. "Why?" he asked, confusion etched on his face. "Because this is not your place. You should be with your own people." "I don't want to be with them," he replied fervently. "I want to be here, with you." The silence that followed was palpable. Ayana's heart raced as she searched his eyes, feeling a connection that both thrilled and terrified her. "Then stay," she whispered, and in that moment, the distance between them vanished. As they drew closer, the world around them faded. Samuel's hand brushed against her cheek, and she leaned into his touch, warmth flooding her veins. Their lips met softly at first, a hesitant exploration that quickly ignited into something deeper. "Wait," Ayana breathed, pulling back. "What about your past?" "I can't change it," Samuel said, his forehead resting against hers. "But I can choose my future." With a soft sigh, she surrendered to the moment, their lips crashing together again with a fervor that sent sparks through the cool desert air. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Ayana and Samuel deepened. They shared not just their stories, but their hopes and dreams, intertwined like the roots of the ancient trees that clung to the canyon walls. However, the peace of their secluded existence was shattered one fateful afternoon. Ayana was out gathering food when she heard the distant sound of hooves thundering against the earth. Her heart raced as she recognized the men, outlaws notorious for raiding Apache villages. "Ayana!" Samuel's voice shouted from behind her, urgency lacing his words. "We need to hide." "No," she retorted, her voice fierce. "They will destroy everything. We must warn my people." "Then let's go together," he insisted, grabbing her hand. "I won't let you face them alone." Together, they sprinted towards her village, the sun glaring down as they raced against time. When they arrived, chaos reigned. Smoke billowed from several homes, and the cries of her people filled the air. Ayana's heart sank at the sight of her community under attack. "Get to safety," she shouted to the villagers, her voice cutting through the din. But Samuel held her gaze, determination etched on his face. "I'm not leaving your side," he declared, drawing a knife from his belt. "What do you need me to do?" Ayana's heart swelled with gratitude and fear. "We must fight back. They cannot take our home." Together, they rallied the villagers, organizing a defense against the oncoming bandits. Samuel fought alongside them, his military training proving invaluable as he directed the defensive lines. "Move to the east," he shouted, his voice commanding. "We can flank them." The air crackled with tension as arrows flew, and the sounds of battle, shouts, screams, the clash of weapons, filled the canyon. Ayana fought fiercely, her heart pounding, her spirit ignited by the desire to protect her home and her people. In the midst of the chaos, she caught sight of Samuel, his blue eyes fierce as he charged into the fray. She felt a rush of pride, mixed with an undercurrent of fear for his safety. "Samuel," she yelled, dodging an incoming arrow. "Watch out!" But he was already engaged with an outlaw, the two men grappling fiercely. Ayana's heart leaped into her throat as she saw Samuel struggle, the outlaw's knife glinting dangerously. With a primal scream, she surged forward, tackling the outlaw with a force born of desperation. The two tumbled to the ground, and Ayana fought with every ounce of strength she had. "Get off her!" Samuel roared, pulling himself free from his own scuffle. He rushed to her side, grabbing the outlaw and wrestling him away. "Are you hurt?" he asked breathlessly, his eyes searching her for any sign of injury. "No," she replied, her heart racing not just from the fight, but from the fierce connection they shared in that moment. They fought side by side, a whirlwind of strength and determination. Together, they turned the tide of the battle, pushing the outlaws back until they were forced to flee, leaving behind the chaos they had wrought. As the dust settled and the cries subsided, Ayana stood amidst her people, her heart heavy with the aftermath of the battle. Samuel turned to her, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "We did it," he breathed, pulling her close. Yes, she replied, her voice trembling. But at what cost? The village was damaged, but they would rebuild. Ayana looked around at the faces of her people, and she knew that they would endure, as they always had. Days later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ayana and Samuel stood together on a ridge overlooking the canyon. The sky blazed with colors, a reminder of the beauty that remained despite their struggles. I want to stay, Samuel said softly, his hand entwined with hers. I want to help you rebuild. Ayana turned to him, her heart swelling with a mix of emotion. You would be welcomed here, Samuel. You fought for us. I did it for you, he confessed, his voice thick with sincerity. I want to honor your people, your heritage. I want to build a life with you. With that, Ayana felt the weight of her past begin to lift. She leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder as the stars began to twinkle above them. Together, she whispered, feeling hope blossom in her chest. Together, Samuel echoed, and in that moment, they both knew that their love was a bridge between two worlds, strong enough to withstand the storms ahead. As the night deepened, they stood united, ready to face whatever challenges may come, their hearts intertwined like the roots of the ancient trees that surrounded them. Their journey had only just begun, but together, they would honor both their heritages and forge a future that was theirs alone. The end.
Thank you for listening. Let's spread the love. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, because everyone deserves a bit of romance.